Be Your Best You, the Passionate to Purpose podcast with David Delaney. Good morning and welcome to this episode of Be Your Best You. If you like books, writing, anything literary, you're going to love this morning's guest, who is Niamh Boyce. Niamh is an award-winning novelist and poet, and her first book, The Herbalist, was an instant success, with the Irish Times calling it the most entertaining yet substantial historical novel since Joseph O'Connor's Star of the Sea. Her second novel, Her Kind, went on to tell us about the events leading up to the Kilkenny witch trials, and an absolutely fascinating read, well worth a visit to your local bookshop to pick up a copy. Niamh lives with her family in Ballylinan in County Laois, and she joins us this morning to tell us all about her journey through writing and her journey with words. So, Niamh, you're very, very welcome, and thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Niamh Boyce, the Herbalist, Newcomer of the Year award for that. Her Kind, which is shortlisted for the EU Prize for Literature, and other work as well. Who is Niamh Boyce? Tell me a little bit about the person behind the writing.
Okay, well, I'm from Athy in Kildare, and I live just outside it in Laois, just across the border, and I work part-time for the libraries. So I work a couple of hours a week for Laois Libraries, and the rest of the time I'm writing and rearing my family, I guess, as well. And I also do teaching work and some commissioned work as well. So I spend my working, hopefully, and on a good week, I would spend a lot of time here in the writing shed, working on the novel I'm trying to finish at the moment, and I could be doing articles then for the Laois blog, or I work a little bit for Womankind. It's a magazine, so I do some pieces for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of sitting on my on a chair.
Excellent. So when did you one question that I'm asking in the podcast is what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you always want to be a writer?
No, it never occurred to me, and I often wonder, is it because of my generation? So I went to school in the 70s and 80s in Ireland, and I didn't really come across any other female Irish writers. We did Soundings was our leaving cert. I can still remember all the poems and stories, and
Yeah.
yes, there was, of course, there was the Emily Dickinson and Emily Bronte and Wuthering Heights, but there was a huge, it didn't even occur to me really. But I think when I look back, I saw there was actually no, that phrase, to be it, you have to see it. And so everything I read and everything I heard about as literature, was none of it included Irish women writers.
Okay.
They did exist, but they were absolutely not on the curriculum. So it never occurred to me to want to be a writer, and I don't know whether that had a part in it. It's just not something. It's something I absolutely love books. I would read the back of a shampoo bottle. I loved books, and this is back in the day with no internet. There was no video even. So when you compared what was on offer maybe on RT1 or RT2, when RT2 started at 6 o'clock in the day, and maybe RT1 had, I don't know, sports, then De Angelis, Little House on the Prairie, which was great. But and then you're off for the world of books, So I was a member of the Athy Library, which I still am from an early age. And so to go in there and to open up a book, and you could be anywhere. It was like there were doors into other worlds. So I absolutely loved, and I'd read anything. I didn't read, some people, they like crime or they like whatever. I just read from A to Z. I didn't care, and I still have very fond memories of that. But it isn't something I ever thought of as something that I would do.
Okay. And what was it intentional then because there's a lot of strong female characters in your writing, and I'm going to single out maybe Her Kind. for that. So was it intentional or accidental that the strong female presence in your books, for example, like Dame Alice Kittler was a very, very strong female character. And it's one thing I found when reading her kind is that you can picture, your writing is so vivid that I actually remember being in Kittler's not long after reading the book, and I just thought, wow, this is where this all happened. Was it intentional to focus on the female strong characters in your writing, or is it just, how did that come about?
No, it's funny, it's not intentional, and I guess often I'm asked that, and I think, well, there is a lot of I don't know really any weak female characters myself. I know, there's variety in the world, but I know what you mean about Alice being incredibly powerful, and my first book as well, I was led to I wrote from the point of view of women who are quite strong characters, but it's not intentional. No, it's not intentional. It's I'm usually just drawn by the story, so with Her Kind, which was based on the Kilkenny witchcraft trials, I was drawn initially by the story, and then as I write, the voices come, and I did 4 years research for that, and I discovered that Alice Kittler was a shockingly powerful woman in terms of how she's sometimes conveyed, now. You read an account of her, even in one of my children's books, school books, said she was a red-haired young woman who must have been very attractive because she'd lots of husbands and had lots of money, which is so far from the truth, so reductionist. But she was a businesswoman in her own right. And when I started to research that case, and I found out how powerful she was and how much wealth she had, I was quite surprised. Because we don't often, when we think of medieval Irish women, we don't often think of power in that way, and that amount of wealth and power. She was a moneylender, an early banker, really. So it's and I guess the other thing as well is I'm interested in bad people. That's good stories, nice stories about nice people doing nice things are nice, but
Nice.
I'm really interested in people who don't do nice things, and they tend to, and power corrupts, doesn't it? I am interested in power. I'm interested, and the same with my first book, which is written from the point of, it's set in Athy, where I'm from, and it was about a true story, and I'm interested in exploring voices that don't normally get heard in that way,
Okay. So, is one thing that people often, I suppose, have a perception about writing is it a lonely career? And I suppose in the pandemic and in lockdowns, people think, oh, I'm grateful for, and they become grateful for their colleagues, and they're in an office, with people 8-9 hours a day. Would you say writing is a lonely career, or what's your perspective, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's probably even lonelier now. And and most people who write are quite introverted, and you would need to be, because the work gets done. You might see writers online or at events when their books are out, but there's usually a long gap between that, and most of it is spent on your own. You can't really write in company. Writers groups are very supportive to spark people off, but so a book can take years, and it's done on your own, and it is actually isolating. It's one of the things that I've noticed recently, that we're so cut off from each other. I do find it. I'm surprised at how much I miss other people. I think a lot of us are. Even the grumpy ones are going, oh, I want a bit of time. I'm always saying things like, I want a bit. If I could have one day on my own, and I want time on my own. But I am so surprised at how much I miss other people's company, or just being in a room. I was watching a film the other night, and it was set in a diner in New York, and they were all laughing and talking and breathing all over each other. That everything looks strange now. I thought, God, I'd love that. I just, but
someone was actually saying,
it does require discipline, and to kind of work at something on your own, and often you're not sure if you're on the right path. And that's kind of another thing, that I'm part of a writers group. We met a couple of years ago. I know Amanda, who started the Abbey Leaks, the festival.
Yes, Amanda Kelly.
She did a course, the same course as I did, in Kilkenny a couple of years ago, and so a group of us that did the course after, in a different year, we started a group called the Banshees, and we still meet. We're meeting tonight online, but we meet once a month, and and spur each other on. And sometimes we don't even get to talk about writing, but it's more that kind of
It's community, and it's
yeah,
connected.
yeah.
Have you a favorite book? Or is that a
Oh,
really what you said about books? And I suppose I remember actually I was a member of a Thai library incidentally myself as a kid, and I always
yeah.
remember going into Mrs. Caffrey, and
Yes, I
yes,
remember her
yes,
well. Yeah, yeah.
and that was I suppose a pre-Google way of checking was the library open if the yellow or the orange beetle was outside the library it was open, and if it wasn't it was closed. Very very simple. But escaping into and I suppose it's really cheeky of me to ask a writer, have you got a favorite book? Is there one book in particular that you go or might read again and again, or would even recommend to listeners?
Yeah, I really love Jeanette Winterson's Oranges Aren't the Only Fruit. And she also it's one of her early books, and it's loose, not even loosely, it's based on her own childhood. She was adopted into a kind of evangelical family. It's very down to earth, it's very funny, it's very moving, and she was brought up in with that background. She just has a really wonderful way of telling a story that draws you in, and she's so funny. But what is interesting is that was a fiction book, so that's Oranges Aren't the Only Fruit. And she had, a couple of years ago, she wrote a memoir about the same time in her life, I guess. And that's, what is it called? Why Be Happy When You Can Be Normal? And it's brilliant to read both of them. They're 20 years apart, but
Okay.
it's very interesting to read both books. And that's Oranges Aren't the Only Fruit is a book I would have read over and over. I really like young voices, as young adult voices, and um I love Shirley Jackson. She was We Have Always Lived in the Castle and The Haunting of Hill House, which was on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it. That was adapted for Netflix. So they're all voices of kind of I suppose they call them coming of age books, with kind of a gritty and a bit of humor is what their books I go back to.
What would you say to the young person maybe listening in right now who thinks I can't do that, I want to be a writer and I can't do that and I have to, is there any one piece of advice maybe that you were given, what would you say to someone who's thinking of going into writing as a career?
Okay, like, I think there's two parts to being a writer. It's almost there's the public part, which is being an author, and that's often what a lot of people think of when they think of writer. But being a writer is actually, the other side is the private part, if you know what I mean. So there's the
Mm-hmm.
public face. There's people, we publishing books, so what is the book cover going to look like, and all this. You don't always have they don't come at the same time. So I was writing for a good few years before I was a published writer, and I would say that if you want to write, and you can write. Um, yeah, just you feed the love of it. You do it for the love of it, because it's, as a career, it's a very different prospect. And I think with the internet and so much access to information, a lot of people land on the information about publication, books, and that side of it, which is the author side, rather than the other side, when before the internet, where we wrote in our lonely rooms. But it's you keep doing it for the love of words, and it's really important to know that there is no such thing as a writer or a type of person who becomes a writer. Um, there's like it's there for everybody. It's
Okay.
it's there for everybody, and you can I guess what I'm going to say is that you can go into it on different levels. Um, what can be very blocking, they call it writer's block, is the idea that you want to write a perfect book, or you have a big idea in your head. So I would always say start small. So if you have a huge idea, and you want it to be perfect, and every time you start it's not quite what you wanted to do, or I would always say to use free writing. There's a wonderful book by Natalie Goldberg called Writing the Bones, and free writing is just timed writing, where you don't judge it and you write very very fast, because a lot of us learn to write, and learned to write stories in a context where we would be examined on them, so they had to be perfect. We had to write nice sentences and whatever. So you kind of, to free yourself up and to really get in touch with with what you want to say and the truth of what you want to say. You have to unlearn all that and forget about spellings, rules. You throw everything in, and it's like composting. You pile up all the shit in, and then you find the little nuggets. So it's I would say a writing practice with no judgment. Because often when I teach a good few writing workshops, I did before COVID, and often people are surprised by the kind of writer they are. So I've been in workshops where I've set writing exercises, and someone has written a chilling, bloody procedural piece, and but I don't like crime. I'm not a crime writer. And I said, well, sorry.
There it
You're
is.
dark. You may come in your pink jumper, but you're very dark. So, when we sit down to write at first, you can be very surprised at what comes up. And because writing is such a personal thing, I think the thing is to keep following it. Like, for example, I thought I was going to write contemporary comedy, and when my first book had no electricity, and it was set in the 30s, and it was very dark, I was actually going to stop, because I thought, this isn't what I want to write. And but I kept following it until it became what I wanted to write. And it's also the writing knows better than you do.
Right.
I know that sounds very, very new agey, but you just let it lead you one sentence at a time, and fill your notebooks, and wait. I would wait a while before even trying to get something published. Learn what you like to write, and to trust it, and to build up your own confidence as a writer before you start submitting, or maybe publishing it online, or different things, because that's done quite a lot quite quickly with newer writers.
So what I'm getting from that is, you would say to someone who was thinking, like, take your time, and
really,
and just,
I
suppose that's a lot of young people now. I suppose with technology, there's a lot of instant things happening. It's what we perceive, and I read somewhere recently that it's the average, the brain nowadays. I think we're processing more in one day than they processed in something like a month in Victorian times, and it's the same for expectations, I suppose, that you're not going to sit down and be a writer tomorrow. That it does take time. Have you got a favorite word? Is there a particular word that you like? I've been following the blog from Laois Libraries. These words popping up every couple of days, and that's a really good word. And is there a particular one, as a writer, as an author, that is there a Niamh Boyce word? Is there a big word that you like?
I don't know. I think there's software that you can run your books through where it tells you what your words are. But I know, I guess I love words like ablutions. Like people from Kildare that use words like that all. But they just mean they're going to wash their face. Ablutions. Like, I love there's a lovely. I think where I'm from anyway. There's a lovely. I really enjoy the way of speaking, and there's a lovely mix of down to earth language thrown in with words like, and now I'm going up to do my ablutions, which is just splash your face. And
excellent.
I like that, and I love more and more, I suppose, as I get older, is I like the older sayings. I like, the things that my grandmother used to say, or because all around us the accents are getting lost, really. We're the Netflix generation, and the American, the Americanization of younger accents. I love hearing a Cork accent. I love hearing a Leitrim accent. I love turning on the radio. You don't hear it so much anymore, and hearing how people actually speak, rather than this globalization. Would that be the right phrase? But yeah.
It's interesting. Ablutions. That's what I haven't heard that in years. Is there any one thing, Niamh? I suppose, taking the last 12 months and the whole what's happened in the world, using that global theme, is there any one thing that you're grateful right now?
Oh, I'm so grateful for my home and my family. Yeah, nearly every night. I sound so pious now, but anyway, nearly every night I do. I think we're all but we have to. We're looking at our lives in a different way. But I'm so grateful for the roof over my head, heat, food, and my family all safe and healthy. And I don't think that will go when all this is over, and it will be over. I think that will stay with us. I think we'll be the generation of grandparents who are going, and well, I remember when you know, what really mattered when it came down to it. And you know what's interesting is other people matter so much. Someone was saying about this virus has really showed us that you know, none of us are all right until all of us are all right. You know, we're all connected in such a way, and it's a scary way we've been shown, but we're so connected, and hopefully that'll affect how we
It's perspective, I think, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and how we look at the world. We'll all be hippies when this breaks next year. We'll all be lying in fields holding hands.
Excellent. I actually there was a very good one going around. I think during the week about a birthday cake. And again, something simple that we all take. I know we've all done it. We put candles on a birthday cake, and you blow them out, and then share the cake with everyone. And like, now if that happens, you kind of go, oh my God, look what they're doing. But anyway, I'm going to ask you one last question. The best bit of advice that you've ever received, what is it? It's a very tough question.
You hear the dead silence and stuff. The first thing is it's not even one I've received. I think it's Dr. Zeus, but it's those that matter won't mind, and those that mind don't matter. That is, yeah.
Niamh Boyce, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it, and it's been great to talk to you. And if you want to check out Niamh's blog, Niamh, where's the best place to find you and your work at the moment? It's
I have a blog called Niamh Boyce blog will get me, and there's a contact form on that. I'm quiet at the moment because I'm trying to write, but trying to finish a book, so I try to be quiet, but I'm there. I'm still there.
Excellent. And the books are available in the usual
Eason's, and I would say to people, if they can, to try and buy from because the local bookshops you can still buy from them. It'll be great to avoid Amazon and the book depository, and to go for the even the national bookshops. There's a bookshop in Kilcullen as well, and O'Mahony's in Limerick, and Eason's is Irish too. So it's even smaller, just to keep them going, because I think book sales are up as well. I think they are up. So if we can keep that in the country, just to keep, it'd be lovely when all this is over that the businesses will still be there.
Excellent. And as you say, a book is going into another world. Is there a title? Is there a title on the new book, or are we that far yet?
Oh, what is this? I have changed it so much. It was called The Spirit Cabinet, but now it's called Sheila.
So we have to wait then. We'll have to wait until it's on the shelf beside the others. Niamh, thank you so much. And listen, we hope to see the new book very, very soon. Thank you. And that's it for another week. Thanks for joining us this morning, and do join us next time on Be Your Best You. Have a good week.